Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people, and we've got one for you today. Michaela Strachan, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Well, I've told you before, I'm not as good as you. I find you utterly delicious. I mean, there you were. You got me through puberty, one of my favourite people on TV, and there you are on the end of my phone. Thank you very much.
What a lovely intro.
Do you realise, for people of my generation, a nearly 40-year-old man, that you have been there our entire lives on the telly? I mean, you were so informative when it came to animals and the planet. I mean, you've been there for generations.
Oh, right. Don't make me sound too old.
Well, you're not that old, are you, really? It's just that we're about the same age.
I started very young. But yeah, I have. I mean, I've been doing wildlife now for 28 years, probably, and been on the telly for 32. So, it is strange, isn't it, when you think back and you think, I've been on the television my whole adult life.
And you're still good at it, and that's what's most remarkable. And what I love about you the most, you don't do trashy stuff, you don't do nonsense, you stick to what you know. There must be temptation on every corner to do other stuff, like the Big Brothers or whatever, where you could probably earn more money. You don't seem to ever take that cheap route.
Oh, did you not know that I've just signed up to Love Island?
Well, now this is what I'm looking forward to.
I'm joking.
How's your bikini? No, I've got an image in my head now, Michaela. This is marvellous. This is the best news I've had since 1984.
No, stop it. It's trash TV.
It is a bit, isn't it?
It's very popular, but it's trash.
But you love what you do, don't you? It seems to me you're still excited by the topics that you speak about.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I find wildlife absolutely fascinating, and I love being outdoors. And I've found the older I get, the more I like my natural environment. And I think my happy place is when I'm out walking my dog in a natural environment. I absolutely love it. And I feel calm, I feel connected, and I find it a real therapy, actually.
And we have to remember when you started, for people like me, seeing a giraffe was all good and well when you brought it to us. There was no YouTube to find it. There was no Netflix with documentaries. It was a different time, and you were literally informing an entire generation of wildlife and natural history.
I think when you do a program like The Really Wild Show, which was an iconic program of its time, in the 90s, well, I think it went from the 80s to the noughties, actually, and I think people of a certain generation will remember that as their wildlife program for children, just as I remember Animal Magic with Johnny Morris. That was my sort of BBC Wildlife fix. And then after us was Steve Backshall and Deadly 60. So, and now you're right, the audience is so sort of, there's so much on, and there's so many channels to watch that not everybody's watching the same thing. So a lot of programs don't become so iconic, particularly with children who have such a huge choice, not just television programs, obviously, but games and social media. They're on their screens, but they're not all watching the same program at the same time these days.
And as I talk about Really Wild Show of yesteryear for people like me, today we have Springwatch and Autumn Watch, which again is this cult sort of following that people look forward to every year. What a blessing to have that in your life.
It's great because it's a very loyal audience. It's a great show. It's got high production values. They're a fantastic team to work with. So it is. It's an absolute joy of a program to work on. We're
going to talk about the kiwi today, which is one of my favourite fruits. Why are we talking about this?
Not the fruit, and it's not the New Zealand people, it's the kiwi bird that we're talking about. So now I'm going to ask you, what do you know about the kiwi bird? You know very much.
Well, it's a little bird with a long neck and a big beak. How about that?
That's pretty good. I'll go with that. It's about the size of a chicken. And it's a really adorable bird. It's quirky, it's flightless, so it's vulnerable, it's full of character, but it's in trouble. And its numbers have declined dramatically. They've gone down 99% in 50 years, which is a shocking figure. And so if nothing is done, they've been around since the time of the dinosaur, and yet if nothing's done to help them, they will become extinct within the next 50 years. But here's where the good news comes, is something is being done, and that's why I'm involved, because it's a really positive conservation project that's working, so it's very exciting. The problem for the kiwi are predators, and the kiwi evolved in New Zealand to not have to fight predators off because there were no predators before man came along. And man brought with him stoats, possums, rats, dogs, cats, and all those have a devastating effect on the kiwi. And so what they're trying to do in New Zealand is make the whole place predator-free by 2050, which is an extremely ambitious project. But before they do that, they've got lots of predator-free islands, and that's what we're focusing on in our campaign. They're bringing kiwis onto these islands, and they're really thriving, and their chances of survival have gone up to 99% on these predator-free islands.
I suppose really the Kiwi's got something in common with those ladies on Love Island with all those predators, really. I suppose it's the same sort of thing, really, isn't it? Really? We were talking about this earlier.
Quite difficult for me to switch from, Kiwis to Love Island, I've got to be honest.
Well, you brought it up. So Old Moat Cider have done this research and they're trying to save the bird. How are they going to do it? I mean, is it possible to turn back the clock? Are they going to ban cats? How are they going to do it? It's all very well to say, right, we're going to change the way people live and get rid of pussycats or whatever. Is it possible, and can they save this bird?
They're certainly not going to get rid of cats and dogs in New Zealand. They're going to try and be more controlling of cats and dogs. But they are trying to make it predator-free, with more sort of, natural predators that aren't indigenous to New Zealand. And I think the Department of Conservation is completely behind it. A lot of money is being put behind it. And the more awareness there is, the more chances it is of being successful. And Old Moot was a cider that started in New Zealand, has a kiwi on its label, and that's why they want to get behind this project as well. And so what they want people to do is sign up to the mission to save kiwis, and they want people to pledge their support. And for everyone that does, they'll donate 20p to the conservation of kiwis. To find out all that information, you just search Save the Kiwi and it'll take you to the website. Not only will you find loads of information, but there's also a film that I made on there called A Forgotten World, which is my journey to New Zealand just last month to go and look at one of these predator-free islands and see the kiwi and see the problems and see what they're doing to help it.
Michaela Strachan, you're one of my favourite people. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Alex. It's been good to chat.